Click on the subscribe button, especially the bell on the right side. Otherwise, you will miss the latest videos. Today I'm very happy. I'm meeting my most favorite astrologer.
Thank you.
And the reason ma'am is my most favorite is not because she has proven that she is one of the number one predictors, especially of mundane astrology events. In the last 10-20 years, she has been absolutely correct. Highest number of predictions, accurate predictions. That's not the reason. Her father was also a great predictor. But the one thing that you can learn, or rather that I have learned from ma'am, is how to be humble and compassionate. And she's one of those few people I consulted when my child was born. And in fact, when my child was born, within 10 minutes, she was the first person to call me. She did not even know I was about to become a father. But I've learned a lot of life lessons from her. And one thing I aspire to become is to lose all my ego and become as humble as her. She's coming once again on our channel. A couple of years back, we did an interview with her. Today it's a very technical session with her on one of the most important subjects that plague modern India, especially because of so many marriages breaking down, so many marriages not happening because our astrologers are not so well informed about this particular dosha. Yes, I am going to be requesting ma'am to speak on Kuja dosha, that is Mars dosha. And before we go further, please understand, this is a very informal interview, informal session. Okay, so the way it has been detailed, spelled out in her book. Okay, obviously only few excerpts of it would come out over here, but we would request ma'am to speak as much as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome the one and only Gayatri Devi Vasudevji. Ma'am, please welcome to Saptarishi's Astrology once again.
Thank you for your kind words.
It's an honor to have you once again, ma'am. And we've been all fans of yours for so long. And you're like the grandmom of astrology now, for us. And because whenever, I still remember my mentor saying, I did not know about your book. My mentor in Delhi, he says, the one person who could ever write an authoritative piece on Kuja dosha was the great Dr. B.V. Raman. Okay, he never wrote a book on it. Okay, so you seem to have, and he kept on saying, I hope Gayatri ji does it. So finally, you come out with a book on Kuja dosha. So can I see the photo and at least show it to the audience, Okay, the art of understanding Kuja doshas. I mean, you've written so many books. All your books are such great hits, I want everybody to especially dwell on this subject, Kuja dosha, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, what does the classics say about it? Most astrologers today, when we go to them, they can't quote anything from the classics. And as a result, people seem to feel that this is a manufactured dosh or a manufactured Kal Sarpadosh or something just for people to loot money. So is it manufactured or have our rishis really spoken about it?
Whatever we have as astrology before us is all from the ancient masters.
Okay.
And Parashara's Brihat Parashara Hora is the ultimate, source book for all of us. There is mention of Kuchitosha,
Okay.
though he does not specifically call it as Kuchitosha. Under the chapter which deals with female horoscopy, Parashara defines Kuchitosha. He defines it as a factor that comes in the way of a permanent marriage, in the sense it will lead to loss of spouse. And he specifically says death. And since it is under female horoscopy, many people may think it applies only to female horoscopes.
Okay.
But in the very next sloka, Parashara very clearly says it is equally applicable to male horoscopes.
Male horoscope.
And if found in a male horoscope, the native is likely to lose his wife.
Okay.
And this loss can be through death or divorce. Once upon a time, there was no official divorce, though many couples would, break up for various reasons and never see each other's face again. Like the wife would go away to her parental home, and the husband maybe he would marry again. So such cases are typical of Kuchitosha.
Okay. So, what does Parashara give the definition of this dosha?
Parashara very clearly says, when Mars is in the 1st, 4th, 7th, 8th or 12th in the chart of a woman, it leads to loss of husband. He does not mention the 2nd house.
Okay.
But later writers like Vaidyanatha Dikshitar in Jataka Parijata and in Mantreshwara's Paladipika, we have the 2nd house also mentioned. So, though Parashara does not mention it, it has been found to work wherever there is Mars in the 2nd house,
Okay.
but it's a relatively toned down kind of dosha if in the 2nd house.
Okay. And does Parashara say only from the ascendant or does he give more parameters?
I don't remember at this stage, but then I think it applies to both all the 3 lagna, the ascendant, the moon sign and the Kalatra Karaka Venus.
Okay. So, but if we take that case, which many people in India also do take, they take from ascendant, from Chandra ascendant also, and also from Venus ascendant.
Yeah.
If we take that case, then, logically, scientifically speaking, 90% of the people would land up, or 70% of the people would land up having Kuja doshas.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Many people have asked the same question and said,
Sure.
look, then almost 90% of the population will have Kuja dosha, which is not the case.
Correct.
But if you make an actual, examination of horoscopes, you will find it will not be there in many horoscopes, though reckoned from all the 3 centers.
Okay.
So that is a misconception that is doing the rounds,
Okay.
and it should be put to rest.
Okay. So, do you consider it also from Chandra Lagna and Shukra also?
Yes.
You consider it in your practice?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you seen disastrous results because of Kuja dosha?
Yes, when Kuja dosha is present in a horoscope and it is not handled properly, then it leads to loss of spouse through death or divorce.
Okay. When you say not handled properly, can you expand on it, please?
See, the only remedy or the solution to Kuja dosha is to pair it with another chart with similar dosha.
Okay.
When the dosha gets diffused, it's almost like the mathematical, 2 minus into minus is plus.
Okay.
When Parashara gives these house positions for Kuja dosha to occur and says it leads to loss of husband in the case of a woman, he again continues in the same vein and says these combinations, if found in the chart of a man, will lead to loss of life and loss of life of the wife. And he does not stop there but continues and says if these combinations are present in the charts of both the man and the woman, then the couple will lead a long and happy married life.
Okay.
So the solution is also given in the same sloka.
Both should have Kuja dosha.
Yes.
But now, how do we match this? Say a male has Mars in the fourth house. He has Kuja dosha, correct?
Yeah.
So the female should also have Mars in the fourth house. Is that necessary?
If it is there, that is best.
Best.
Ah.
Okay. If not, somewhere she should have a Kuja
See,
dosha.
Mars in the 7th and 8th are tough forms of the dosha, especially the 8th house position of Mars. The 2nd and 12th are not that strong a form of Kuja dosha.
Okay.
The 4th is also quite strong.
Okay. Why do you say eighth is the strongest?
It is Mangalya Sthana,
Okay.
and Mars is deemed to be Mangalya Karaka.
Correct.
So Karaka in the relevant house may be said to destroy that house.
Okay. Okay. That's Karako Bhavanasha. Okay. You take Karako Bhavanasha completely, ma'am?
Sometimes.
Okay.
There can be other mitigating factors. It all depends upon the totality of the horoscope.
Each horoscope is different, right? Okay. And are there exceptions to this dosha? If Mars is exalted or debilitated, or any other exceptions that classics have mentioned or you have found working?
Lots of exceptions have been mentioned in later works. And especially, if you go through old issues of the Astrological magazine of Dr. B.V. Raman, my father,
Yeah.
you will find there are many articles which give out these exceptions under which Mars dosha is said to get diffused. But I have found that none of these exceptions work.
Oh.
And in my book, I have given several illustrations where these exceptions are present, but the Kuja dosha has still worked and destroyed the marriage.
Okay. Okay. So these exceptions you have found in your
They
practice.
don't work.
Okay.
Some even say, like, if my Jupiter is aspecting Mars, then the dosha is diffused, is removed. It is not eliminated. It may be diluted a little, but it will still be there and has to be matched.
Okay. Have you seen charts where Kuja dosha is there, but still the marriage is going on?
If both have Kuja dosha,
No.
it works.
In one case only.
I have seen just one case
Huh.
where there is Kuja dosha in the male chart and no Kuja dosha in the female chart.
Okay.
And that is my father, Dr. Raman's chart.
Okay.
He has Mars in the 7th in Leo,
Right.
where Venus is also placed.
Correct.
So, and the moon is in Taurus, so Mars is in the 7th from the ascendant, in the 1st from Venus, and in the 4th from Chandra Lagna.
Correct.
And in my mother's case, there is no Kuja dosha. Lagna being Capricorn, her Mars is in the 11th house in Scorpio. And Chandra Lagna being Aquarius, it is in the 10th house from Chandra Lagna.
Right.
And Venus being in Virgo, Mars is in the 3rd from Shukra Lagna.
Yeah.
But still, their marriage lasted for more than 68 years.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it was my mother without Kuja dosha who lost father.
Okay. Means, sorry, who lost father means?
Like, he
Father
lost
died
him
first.
to death. Huh.
Father died first.
Yeah.
Your father, right.
So my father who had Kuja dosha did not lose his spouse.
Okay.
But his spouse who did not have Kuja dosha lost her spouse.
Okay. And
Many times, when I was with father, we would discuss some of these doshas or general astrological matters and all. And I would always ask him, like how did it happen? Like, how did, father was still there and they had a long married life. So, it would not have been possible in a normal case of Kuja dosha. I was always intrigued by that. So whenever we spoke or discussed, this father would say, experience counts more than anything else. And even as a young man, he was worried about the Kuja dosha in his chart and no Kuja dosha in mother's chart before the marriage. He and mother were first cousins, son and daughter of brother and sister respectively.
okay.
My father's father was, my mother's mother was father's sister, first cousins.
First cousins.
So even before the marriage, when was talked that they two should get married and all, my father was very worried, and he went to his grandfather, my great grandfather, Professor Surya Narayan Rao, and told him, look, I have Kujidosha Raju. My mother's name was Rajeshwari, and they used to call her Raju. Raju has no Kujidosha, so I don't think this marriage should take place. Then he would say, great grandfather would chide him and say, you know nothing about it, you don't have any experience. I have seen both charts. You will have a long and happy married life, and she will be a very supportive wife. And that would be the end of the discussion. And so, of course, they never took their decisions on marriage those days. So the two were married and they lived happily for many years. And one factor that protected the charts from the impact of Kuja dosha was, father would say in his later years, the presence of Jupiter in in a Kendra from Kalatra Karaka Shukra.
Okay.
And the signs being involved being fixed both.
Okay.
And Jupiter was also powerful being Vargottama.
Oh. Okay.
So I don't think we can apply this factor combination to every chart
Having
that has
Kuja
it with different lagnas and other planetary placements.
So,
But in his case, it was exceptional. And father would say, grandfather had said that Guru, Jupiter in a Kendra from Shukra Lagna protected the marriage.
And in his case, it was doubly powerful, being Vargottama, and also fixed sign.
Yes, fixed sign.
Okay. Why? Can you just, for the young audience, why fixed sign so important over here? For fixed marriage, for marriage being very well fixed.
For stability.
Sorry.
For stability.
Stability. Fixed.
For making the marriage endure.
Endure.
Because common signs are always a little troublesome.
Yeah.
Being dual signs, they can be very shifty and not give stability. Movable signs also, you can say the same thing about them.
Yeah.
But in father's case, his was an exceptional case. And like every rule has an exception.
Yeah.
It was an exception.
Right.
But otherwise, I have not seen Kujadosha not working in any chart that has not been properly matched.
When it comes to Kuja dosha, since we are on the topic of signs, different types of signs, Kuja dosha in a Chara sign, fixed sign, and dual sign, which one? How do you grade it? Kuja dosha in these three signs.
In the 8th house, irrespective of the sign, it's very powerful. 7th also. And the same grading applies to the 4th.
No, the sign like suppose you have 7th house Kuja dosha, and a dual sign is sitting over there, and a fixed in another chart, same 7th house Kuja dosha, fixed sign sitting. So which one is more harmful?
I don't think that makes any material difference.
Okay.
Though if Mars is retrograde, with Sun opposing him sign-wise, when he'll be in extreme or Ati Vakra, extreme retrogression, that can intensify the Kuja dosha. Usually when this kind of dosha is present, Vakra, Kuja with Sun in the opposite house, when he's in his extreme retrogression, in such cases you find that, usually marriage parties meet with accidents even before the marriage itself, and the bride or the groom gets killed, that kind of situation.
Okay. And coming to your father's horoscope, he has Mars with Venus in the 7th house. If I remember well, and I think I kind of glanced it somewhere here or there, is Dev Kerlam gives an exception for Kuja dosha if Mars is with Sun or Venus or Jupiter or something like that. Have you found that working, or as an exception rule?
It doesn't work.
Okay. This exception.
As a general rule, it does not work.
What would be more worse as a Kuja dosha? Having an exalted Mars as a Kuja dosha, or having a debilitated Mars as a Kuja dosha?
I think they both would bring the same kind of result. If it's an exalted Mars, then the heat, the anger and fire between the two could be acrimonious, more severe between the couple. If it is Cancer, it may be not that severe, but the anger and breaking down of the relationship will be there, but not that bitter and angry.
Acha.
Sometimes the spouses become very revengeful. They don't give, they don't, they don't give the divorce, and they bring in all sorts of elements into the case to just make the other party suffer, sort of revengeful.
Correct. It's all about the power of the Mars. That way, if you could. Does it work more when one is going through Mars Dasha?
No, I have not found any connection between Kuja Dosha and Mars Dasha.
Acha. Whenever in the charts that you saw, which dasha was operating, generally speaking, when death happened or divorce happened?
No, it can be any Dasha, the 7th or the 8th Lord's Dasha.
Okay.
Rahu Dasha, Antya, or the closing bhuktis of Rahu Dasha, if Kuja Dosha is present, can be difficult in terms of the marriage surviving.
Okay.
If it has not been paired with another chart with Kuja Dosha.
Okay.
But it can be any Dasha, it depends upon the Lordship.
Okay.
Especially if the planet is in the 6th house, which is the 12th from the 7th. Then there are greater chances of the marriage going to the courts, litigation, and then divorce.
Can we have a look at your book and see some examples from it? I do not. Something to illustrate for our young audience. So that they understand how Kuja Dosha operated.
One of the best examples for Kuja Dosha you find in the charts of the senior George Bush,
Acha.
The US President.
US President.
And his wife, I think Margaret, I don't remember her name. They both have Kuja Dosha.
Okay.
And, considering the fact they come from the West, this case comes from the West, where divorces are quite common. In spite of that, their relationship has lasted so long and it still continues to thrive.
Correct.
Both have Kuja Dosha.
Okay.
Now in chart 8, which is of a woman who got married in February 2005 and her husband died in November 2005.
Okay.
You have the ascendant Libra with Mercury in it. Sun is in the 2nd house. Venus is in the 3rd house. And in Aquarius in the 5th you have Moon and Ketu.
Okay.
In the 11th house in Leo you have Jupiter, Mars and Rahu.
Okay.
And in the 12th house Saturn.
Okay. So she has. This is her horoscope.
Yes, this is not of the president or his wife.
No.
Yeah.
Just a normal native.
Yes. She got married in February 2005 and lost her husband to death in November. That is hardly 9 months later.
9 months later. So she has Kuja Dosha by Mars being in 7th from Moon.
That's right.
Okay.
And there is also Jupiter there. That should have been a mitigating factor, but it didn't help at all. And Mars is with Rahu. Mars with Rahu only aggravates the dosha. So this is a case where, where one of these exceptions which says Jupiter influencing Mars should prevent the dosha from materializing. It has not worked in this case.
Okay.
So there are several cases where these exceptions to Kujidosha are found, but the results have been tragic, with the marriage not surviving.
I have one more question. Suppose somebody has Kuja dosha from Lagna, and the bride to be, okay, or the spouse to be, has Kuja dosha from Shukra.
Yeah.
Still, they can be matched.
Yes.
They can be
Yeah.
matched. Okay.
It can be from any one of the centers, Lagna, Chandra Lagna, or Shukra Lagna.
Okay.
I feel if the two charts have Kujadosha and they match that way, then they have some kind of inner resilience or karmic resilience, which helps them digest the other's follies and idiosyncrasies.
Okay.
So usually, most trivial matters they, blow up into monstrous levels leading to divorce.
Yeah.
But when the dosha is present in both the charts, they somehow have each of the natives. They have the strength to digest the other's anger or whatever is causing the tension between them. So the relationship may not be very smooth. There may be tensions between them, but still, they're able to digest each other's follies and stick together.
Right. Ma'am, I'm just going into the very, probably it's just a stupid question, but what's the logic behind Parashar Rishi saying that is Mars is in these houses, death will happen? What's the logic?
See, when you take up any astrological principle, you cannot find logic of the kind you expect to find in other subjects.
Correct.
All of this knowledge appears to be revealed knowledge,
Yeah.
and it was discovered by the great rishis through yogic and intuitive methods.
Correct.
So it's not a question like in science experiments where you have a observation, experiment, inference and verification. That process you cannot apply to these ancient dicta. But that they work in practice is what vindicates them.
Yeah, that's true.
So take any principle. Why should Jupiter and the ascendant make you good, or Saturn and the ascendant make you always, face troubles and difficulties? Or Venus in the ascendant gives you good looks, and Saturn in the ascendant, spoils your looks. Why should Saturn be angry with you and do that to you?
Yeah. No, I meant from that angle that if, say, for example, male has Kuja dosha, or say the woman has Kuja dosha, the male is dying. What is the correlation over here? Is there some kind of broad possible logic that we can try to fix? I do not know.
In this particular instance of Kujadosha alone, it is just like, minus into minus is plus. Simple algebraic equation works.
So if I have a minus, it gets transferred to my wife if she does not have that minus. Is that what the Rishi is saying? Isn't it?
I don't think it gets transferred to the woman's chart, because the woman will also have it in her chart that she may not be having a stable marriage.
But
So for that you have to go into the philosophy of astrology, which is basically the law of karma and the theory of rebirth.
okay.
For example, they say for Aries and Scorpio ascendants, Mars in the 8th, especially for Aries, Mars in the 8th does not cause Kujadosha. Or for Scorpio, Mars in the 8th in Gemini does not cause Kujadosha, because Mars is the ascendant lord and deemed to be a benefic. But in practice, we don't see this happening.
Okay.
Take the case of someone like Amartya Sen, who's known to everyone. And I think he's had 2 or 3 marriages. Mesha Lagna with Mars in the 8th house.
Okay.
Mars in the 8th house has given him good longevity, but not a marriage that has survived for whatever reason. Whether reasons of ill health and the wife dying of cancer or divorce or whatever.
Okay, that's a great exception actually. We try
So
to.
when you take the charts of people, celebrities and all who are well known, And you would also be familiar with some of the events in their lives.
Yeah.
So you can check Mars in the 8th for his Mesha Lagna chart has not produced any good results regarding the wife's longevity.
Okay.
The quality of the marriage itself may depend upon the 7th house and how Shukra is placed, 7th Lord is placed.
Okay. Okay.
Indira Gandhi had Mars in the 8th from Chandra Lagna.
Hmm.
Cancer rising with Moon in the 7th house, Saturn in Cancer, Mars in the 2nd in a Parivartana with the 2nd Lord Sun.
Sun. Yeah.
So she lost her husband quite early in life. The 2nd and the 5th Parivartana proved to be good in terms of material prosperity. But Mars, as 5th Lord also aspecting the 5th, deprived her of a son and brought her under what is known as Putra Shoka.
Correct.
So in that case also Mars in the 7th, in the 8th from her Chandra Lagna proved disastrous for her marriage.
Marriage. So Mars is mainly taken as a killer in this context because it's Naisargic 8th Lord and Lagna Lord. 8th Lord
of the marriage, not necessarily of the spouse. The spouse may die or be divorced.
Okay. Because it's Mangalya Sthana.
Yes.
Mangalya Sthana.
But 7th is Kalatra Sthana, there also Mars. Mars is known as a fiery planet. So maybe he sets fire to the marriage. But you cannot look for logical reasons. Because all this is some kind of revealed knowledge. Because otherwise, who on earth can even imagine that there is a script in the heavens that applies to each one of us puny individuals? To just look at the skies at night and see all those, shining celestial bodies, hundreds and thousands and millions of them. Still, our lives are all scripted by the planetary patterns. So, just human intelligence, really cannot gauge it. There must have been some other method of gauging that knowledge and identifying the script. Like you have shorthand, you have this planetary hand, which is a map of the heavens. And if you can decipher the script, you will be able to get some clues to what awaits an individual in his life.
True. Any other doshas you find, I'm diverting the topic from Kuja dosha. Any other doshas you find that affect marriage life badly? Typical doshas?
Sun also in similar positions, especially in the 7th and 8th, can make for a very, very painful marriage. It brings in very great bitter and anger between the couple.
Saturn in that position?
No, Sun in the houses that are earmarked for Kuja-dosha, more especially the 7th house. Ego conflicts will reach very dangerous levels.
What about Saturn in
the 7th, he brings in coldness into the marriage. It may be an affectionate marriage, but there is no demonstrable love or affection. There is a lack of warmth in the marriage. But it doesn't always hurt the marriage, because when Saturn is in the 7th, it will be influencing the ascendant directly. Saturn in the 7th gets what is known as the Big Bala, and it also endows the native with a certain degree of detachment, which also helps the marriage stay intact and peaceful.
Yeah, true.
He takes it in his stride, like if the spouse is shouting and acting wild. Chalta hai.
True. So true.
So different Mars, he makes you bitter and angry. So you resent and you revolt and you react strongly, and it gets worse and worse.
Okay.
But the sun ruling the ego, usually ego conflicts assume very dangerous proportions.
Rahu in these positions of Kuja dosha?
Rahu in the 8th is a typical yoga for loss of spouse, Vaidavya yoga. That is, it appears again to both men and women. In the 2nd, there'll be family problems, etc., tension. In the 4th house, especially if Rahu Dasha is running. Until marriage also the family atmosphere will not be happy, and after marriage also there will be more problems due to interference by the in-law family members rather than the husband himself. The in-law family members like the sister-in-law or the brothers or even the father-in-law, mother-in-law poking their nose into everything and creating tensions between the couple.
Okay.
In the seventh house, it does not materially affect the marriage, but here also the matching should be there. But let me tell you, when it comes to matching of horoscope, there is this factor known as dosha samyam. So that is, the dosha should be balanced. So all of these natural malefics, Sun, Mars, Saturn, Rahu and Ketu, in these houses, they produce marital tensions of different degrees. So if paired with another chart with similar dosha, like let us say there is the Rahu and Ketu are across your lagna in the 7th house. Then if you find a chart with Rahu and Ketu in the 2nd and 8th houses, you can pair them and they will be quite happy. With but some tensions will be there. And depending upon which house, if the matching is good, they'll be happy. Otherwise, it brings in a certain level of unhappiness into the marriage.
So, Rahu Ketu in 1-7 axis in say male chart, and in female it is in 2-8 axis. It can still work.
It can work.
Okay, and
marriage lasts. Most importantly, it lasts.
Last. What if the female also has Rahu Ketu in the 1-7 axis?
That is good.
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 If it is opposite, like
good.
somebody has.
Irrespective of which node is in the 1st and the 7th, the nodal axis across the lagna and the 7th is good.
So that is dosha's
balance.
Balance.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You for
But before you start matching horoscopes, that is a relative assessment of the two charts.
Okay.
You also have to ensure that the chart that is brought to you is of good quality. And one of the most important things to look for is Ayus or longevity. The Ayus factor between the two charts gap should not be too wide.
Okay.
Like if one shows 32 years and the other 80 years, it's better not to match them. You don't have to go into matching at all.
Okay.
Then physical health and mental health.
Okay.
At least they should not suffer from serious health conditions in the first 25-30 years of married life.
Okay.
Like epilepsy, leprosy, cancer, serious heart conditions, and similar health conditions.
Health conditions.
Then mental health, judged from the lagna and the moon. Because many times, these schizophrenics and all, they're very good at social interaction, they're friendly, they're nice, polite, the perfect host. But if you're stuck with them within the four walls of your room, then you know how terrible it is to handle them.
Yeah.
So you check for such factors also, based on the position of the moon. If the moon is with Vakra Shani, Vakra Kuja, it's going to be a very difficult personality you will have to live with. And also the Moon-Mercury combination is also to be looked into, because it makes one a big hypocrite. And they're always, trying to set one person against another. The traditional or the textual result is unmada or lunacy. It can also be lunacy, but it can also be manipulation and hypocrisy of dangerous levels, or they're prone to very dangerous levels of negative emotions like jealousy, possessiveness, greed, avarice, which may drive them to do things that will harm the family life.
So this is Moon Mercury conjunction or opposition also?
It can be either, even mutual kendras, that is the important thing.
Oh, it works in mutual kendras also, Unmada.
But there can be exonerating factors also. When, in many families there are family members who are always a little tricky and dangerous, who like to see people create misunderstandings. It will operate only at that level.
Yeah.
So before you start on the relative assessment of the merits and demerits of the two charts, you have to ensure these parameters are met with. Then only dosha samyam. And then also you have to look for Venus and how it's placed. If there are extramarital adventures or affairs shown in this chart, you tell the parents, like, This is not a good chart. We cannot proceed on this basis.
Ma'am, you mentioned at the very start about Ayush.
Huh.
The problem with today's astrological knowledge, or at least that is commonly available all over India, okay, is the astrologers today do not calculate Ayush. Although in olden times, the first thing when you see the horoscope was to calculate the longevity. You know, today they don't do it. People complain that hey, we do not know any reliable method, or the most reliable method we haven't found. Which is the most reliable method you have found, or top 3 reliable methods in Ayush calculation?
See,
Longevity.
there are mathematical methods like the Amshayu method and other, but they don't work very well in practice. So broadly, by the general principles of astrology, you can categorize a chart into either Alpayu, Balarista. Anyway, when someone comes to you for marriage, Balarista would have been covered. So Alpayu, Madhyayu and Purnayu. Alpayu is up to 32 years, Madhyayu is up to 75, 75 and above is Purnayu. So you can broadly estimate the longevity. You don't have to go into the exact date and all. You can say, looking at the chart, it's a Madhyayu chart, maybe 35 or 40 years there can be a serious health crisis. Or even Madhyayu, it can extend to 75. The chart is otherwise well disposed. Maybe he will cross 70, which is quite good for considering a match.
So you take the Gemini method for Alpayu, Madhyayu?
No, only Parashari basically.
Parashari? Okay.
For example, very simple thumb rules are what I found from practices. If the Kendras are occupied by Papagrahas, malefics, if the Shubhagrahas are not in Kendras or in Dustanas, the moon is weak, then it shows a short life. So, Shubhagrahas in Kendras, Lagnadipati in a Kendra generally give good longevity. If the moon is waxing in with digital strength, about the time of Purnima, it also protects longevity. If the moon is weak, and especially in the 8th house, and also Papagrahas are in Kendra, usually it brings in an Alpayu death. Most cases of murder victims and all, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, they will have the Papagrahas in Kendras, Chandra in a Dustana, Shubhagrahas in Dustanas.
Okay.
Like in the Arushi murder case. Yeah, she had Shubhagrahas in Dustanas, Papagrahas in Kendras, Venus and Mercury in the 8th house, I think, for Scorpio ascendant. She lost her life. I mean, you can place her life in the Alpayu category. 32 is the upper limit. And also a very interesting combination is when Venus and Mercury are in the 8th house, then one dies while asleep. And this combination fitted her like anything. Whatever happened, whether she was murdered or whatever, was while she was, I think, asleep.
Okay.
So I've dealt with her case, in one of my editorials, where I used this combination to conclude that she had died in her sleep. And because she had died in her sleep, she did not resist whoever was trying to kill her. So, whoever killed her was waiting for her to fall asleep or came when she was asleep and then killed her. So that can provide certain leads. In fact, I don't want to go into more details on record. And since she was asleep, she did not put up a struggle before being killed. And that could provide a very vital clue to whatever had happened that night.
Okay.
That is, for assessing longevity.
Okay.
This is a classic example of a short life or an Alpayu.
Okay.
My own brother Surya Prakash, he died in his 26th year of a heart attack. He was in perfect health. And that day, whole morning, we were playing cricket in the compound of our house. We had a huge compound. not like nowadays, where you don't have a compound at all. And we were all playing cricket. And around 11:30, he said, just wait, I'll go in and have some water and come. He went to mother and said, I'm feeling a little uneasy, can you give me some Mosambik juice or lemon juice? So mother squeezed lemon and some water and gave it to him. And then there only he collapsed. He was taken to the nursing home and there they declared him brought dead. So he had no heart problems or anything. He had Libra rising with the sun there. Then Venus and Mercury in the 12th house, Lagnadipati and Ashtamadipati in the 12th house, Moon, Mars, Rahu in Sagittarius in the 3rd house, Guru in the 2nd house, and Saturn in Kumbha, I think. So only Papa Grahas in Kendras, no Shubha Grahas in Kendras, Moon heavily afflicted. But the interesting thing is, both he and father were aware of what was to come.
Yeah.
Because he was practicing astrology in Madras with an institute named after Mother Rajeshwari Astrological Institute. And he was doing very well, and he had also written articles in the astrological magazine.
They are still considered best.
On the Shah, Persia, all of them were proved correct.
Correct.
About 1 month or 2 months before his passing away, he passed away in September 1963. So I think in August, he came back to Bangalore. He shut shop, wound up everything, brought all his articles and goods and office papers, and those days they had typewriters, even the typewriters, etc., and came back to Bangalore. In the meanwhile, mother was looking for a bride for him, and she had got all the jewelry, etc., the usual things ready and all. And whenever there was a proposal, he would tell mother, why do you want to go and see her? I am an alpha, you don't. But mother, she never took it seriously, and she would be very excited with the family, the bride's family coming and all that. So he was plainly aware that he was not going to live much longer, and came away to Bangalore with, closing his establishment there. And in September, I don't remember the date, he passed away. Within a few hours of his feeling uncomfortable, uneasy in his chest. Even now when I discuss his chart, I feel very sad and bad.
I still remember my mentor telling me that his articles had created big wave in the astrological magazine. He wrote some articles with Tejan Bose also.
Yeah.
Tejan Bose, the Brigu, this thing, and
he was just 26.
Tejan Bose recently died, by the way.
Really? He must have been very, very old.
Yeah, he must have been he was very old. Just I think 2 months back, mentor called up and said he's no more. I was supposed to publish his books on Brigu, but yeah.
And Chakrapayani Ullal also
He
passed away.
just recently, just 3-4 days back.
But he was quite old.
Old and
Leukemia.
leukemia. That was the sad part. Somehow, I always feel great astrologers, either they go too early or they stay back, but they don't complete their books and leave our
How much
knowledge.
can one individual do?
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's always such a pleasure talking to you and listening your words of advice. And the main thing is your vast experience. I wonder how many astrologers are alive today with the kind of classical experience that you have, along with practical experience. So let us hope you keep on writing lots of articles, lots of books, and your editorials are always an eye opener.
Thank you.
Great eye opener. Any topic that you choose is an eye opener. I mean, honestly, I wonder how many of us can write that kind of classical, with a classical bent, and and with a practical, because you carry the experience of from B. Suryanarayan Rao to B.V. Raman to yourself.
But I would say it's a father's blessings.
That's really nice. Thank you so much, and we hope that you keep on coming on Saptarishi's astrology channel.
Thank you for your kind words, but they're very flattering, and I don't think I deserve them.
I mean, you are just so humble. I mean, even when your predictions are right, I've seen you never go out and blast it, and you don't do that like other astrologers do. If their one prediction is right, they blast it on Facebook, YouTube, everywhere, or repeat it in their journals like anything 100 times. You don't do that, and that shows your class. I mean, that truly shows the way we astrologers should behave in the society, and set an example ourselves for other astrologers, young astrologers, to behave. So that's something I've always observed about you, and that's something that's my idol. You're like my idol.
Thank you.
Honestly. And so readers, I'll request readers to also, because YouTube is a very younger generation, and they do not go into deeper astrology. The problem with YouTube is if you create a transit video or Mars in first house, second house, third house, the video becomes a hit. But this kind of classical experience coming out is not there. So I request you all, not that ma'am has said, to kindly subscribe to Modern Astrology. Okay, they have a website also. Do you have a website, ma'am? I think I saw it somewhere.
We have www.modernastrology.co.in.
And people can subscribe from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so please subscribe to learn about the great experiences of astrology from the classical angle. Okay, and also for latest events. So you are predicting India's moon Dosha and the NDA government this time, is it?
That's the August issue.
August issue. Okay. Okay. So what's in coming up now? For
very briefly put, I think we are moving into a very progressive and prosperous phase.
Okay.
But the Prime Minister, he will be, he has a very tough time. But every time he will be able to overcome those challenges and take the country along with him onwards.
Okay. And we see Modi again next term also.
That I'll deal with at a later date.
Okay. So let's hope the demonetization is not. You feel the demonetization and the GST is not going to affect the economy so badly.
See, any status quo when disturbed will cause a lot of ripples, and that is what is happening. But in the long run, especially after the country has been through a phase of apathy and misrule over the last 6 decades, this is a welcome move. Difficult in the initial stages, but ultimately it will do good to the country.
Okay, that's great. That's nice to hear, especially for the younger generation and the businessmen. They would love to hear it. Thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure, ma'am, having you.
Namaste.
It's a pleasure.